Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose. Cineworld, again, its projection, it projected the wrong film.
So we went in to see Thor Ragnarok, the latest of the Marvel things. And it started off, and there was a lot of wind. We saw it in 4DX.
Yes.
Seats moving, wind blowing in our faces. It was beautiful. And little girl does a voiceover going, "Oh, hello, I'm the little girl doing a introduction to a movie. The world is rubbish, the weather is terrible, and we've managed to put bombs in space that make the weather good." And I'm going, this is a lot like Geostorm.
Yes.
And I was telling you that, and I think when I said that to you...
You were telling me that, I was going, shh.
I said, this is Geostorm. And I think you thought that I was going, this is a lot like Geostorm.
Yes, I thought you were.
But no, it genuinely was Geostorm.
Yeah. So,
and having seen the first 3 minutes of Geostorm, I really want to see Geostorm.
Yes, I kind of did as well, actually.
But then they
but
stopped
not
the film.
in that for the...
Yeah, no, I think it has to be seen in that way.
Well,
It's going to be too stupid.
I'm never seeing a film like that again, I'll tell you. Bugger. Hello? Oh, no. They're scammers, like... We're calling from a solicitors about your accident to a man who doesn't drive. But it's outrageous that they can even do that, actually. Anyway, let's go back to our film.
So we saw this in 4DX, and like I said, 4DX...
I'm never doing 4DX again.
Make shit films good.
Well, you're never dragging me to another.
I think Geostorm has to be seen in that format.
Well, you can see it in that form, and I don't care. I'm never.
Why? What was wrong with it?
Well, I just feel that I'm not watching films properly. I don't like being shaken around so that your stomach is waddling from side to side to side. I don't like having those smells wafted up my nose. I think it's all stuff that really detracts from the film that you're watching.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well...
But that's why you have to watch it on Geostorm.
Well, that's what you said about Thor, and actually I felt it spoiled my enjoyment of the film.
Really?
I didn't enjoy it much, really, and I thought maybe I would have.
I disagree. I think it's not a very good film.
Well, I think it's not... Well, my question is, how the hell do we even know now that we've been jostled around?
Because I was still watching it with my eyes and ears.
Well,
and I knew
my eyes weren't working half the time because I was being jostled around that bloody seat.
No.
Kind of. Yeah, I thought.
Well, fine. I won't talk you into it again, but it's your loss because 4DX is the future, man. Anyway,
to be fair, there were some kids sitting next to us. They loved the whole thing.
Yeah,
they loved being jostled around, and they loved what they were seeing and what they were hearing and everything. So
all the lights and the colours.
They
stimulated those children.
They loved
like
it.
Nothing.
So, and there were kind of people laughing actually, throughout the cinema. So I just think it might be one of those films that just somehow doesn't connect with whatever my own sensibility is.
Here's a question for you. What was the plot?
Well, the plot is, in a way, straightforward. So Thor beats this great threat to Asgard, whose mask has this secret power of destruction, and in doing so kind of brings back his sister, who's the queen of the dead. And there's a prophecy called Ragnarok that means that, Hela will be destroyed and will destroy Asgard with her. And the rest of the film is about, seeing how the prophecy comes true.
Hold on. Hela, the sister of Thor, did not know once he had, and the goddess of death will be released once he dies. So the sister coming back has nothing to do with the big demon guy. The big demon guy was just your opening fight. Hela, which is the sister coming back, is all about Odin dying, apparently. Goddess of Death is released.
Oh, right. Okay,
it's
well,
fucking
whatever.
Stupid. I spent a good... I mean, this is a 2 hour, 10-minute long film, which is too long, obviously.
Yes,
And
it felt long.
Mind you, we did also spend about 15, 20 minutes waiting for it to actually start because we saw a whole other film before.
Yes.
And I spent a good 2/3 of the film really having a shit time and thinking this is fucking boring and it's just treading water and wasting time. And it does the Marvel sense of humor thing of the kind of, oh, it's a little bit awkward, but isn't it funny because this is about superheroes and you shouldn't really have silly comedy. You know, it does that thing of like kind of slight awkwardness, which I thought was going to, when Hela shows up, the sister, played by Cate Blanchett, brilliantly.
Yes.
And she's a ray of evil sunshine.
Yes.
In the whole thing.
Yes, she's fantastic.
And the way she moves and stands there. Although, to be fair, if I'd seen Maleficent, I probably would have gone, oh, this is a lot like that.
Well, I don't know.
There's a similar kind of...
I loved her character. She energized the film every time she came in.
But she does... Even she has a few of those awkward lines. Like, she takes over Asgard while the lads are away and Odin's dead, and kind of introduces herself to the newly enslaved population in this terrible speech, and I'm here to... And they don't know who she is. And one of their representatives says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Didn't you get all of that? I'm bloody..." And it's like it's this sort of trying to undercut a very lofty thing with kind of pathos. They always try and do it, and it's not that it can't be funny, but they really it's like they paint over everything with this irony that is very blunt.
Well, I don't know. I thought actually that the humor in this film was rather different.
Well,
was more modest.
This is what I was going to get onto, because this film is directed by Taika Waititi, who made Hunt for the Wilder People, a New Zealand director. Hunt for the Wilder People was an amazing, sort of charming, weird little movie, and it's New Zealand's biggest movie ever, basically. About this little kid who ran away and just trying to be independent and teams up with Sam Neill, who doesn't like him, and so on. It's a beautiful, charming little thing. And you can see these two senses of humour fighting against each other in this film. They're combining in really awkward ways. Like, you do have this kind of the Marvel thing of going, let's try and just shove humour in this awkward way that they do, this blunt way. But then you do have this kind of cute other side to it.
More modest, self-effacing, and actually also more musical, because it's almost like you hear that New Zealand accent, right? There were several of the actors.
Taika Waititi plays the sort of rock monster.
Ah, right, okay.
I believe that's him.
So that was, and so it has those nice touches. And actually, I do also think that Chris Hemsworth is at his most appealing, right? That kind of, it is true that making him funny humanizes him. I think this is, so in a way he's been a big star for a long time, but I feel this is like the first film in which like audiences really take to him, that audiences really like him. Yeah, that kind of, he becomes much more approachable and knowable through his sense of humor. I thought that was very good. But it doesn't make up for the rest of the film for me. And I hated so many things about it, really. I hate fucking Stan Lee showing up and making a cameo in these. I think the joke has worn thin, and, his ugly old mug is not necessary. The films don't need it, right? It might be a contract requirement, but actually the films don't need it, and it's distracting, and I hate it. So, that's the first thing. The other thing is the gross sentimentality that some moments have, like kind of at the end, where Thor and Loki, kind of, okay, it's just...
I did hear you recoil at that bit, although I thought it was actually, to be fair, that actually didn't linger. It was just fine. No, I wasn't emotionally affected by it. Basically what happens is, Thor and Loki obviously historically have not got on. And Loki's always fucking stuff up for Thor, who's just trying to chill out and be cool and be the king. Well, not be the king, but just sort of maintain...
Have power over it.
Yeah, maintain a level of sort of coolness. And ultimately they have to... without Loki's help, he won't be able to save Asgard from their sister. Although it's not really clear that he can't. I mean, to be fair, he's got lightning shooting out of his face, and he's got the Hulk. Actually, Loki doesn't seem to do very much.
Well, I really like...
But they kind of reconnect, and he says thank you for stopping being evil for once and helping out. and he
I could hug you or something.
yeah, but it wasn't lingered on. It was fine. Like I thought.
Well,
I mean, it wasn't like the end of Lord of the Rings, was it? Where it takes half an hour to say goodbye.
Well,
Got it done in.
I think it could have done without that.
Well, he had to say thank you to him, didn't he? I mean, you have to go cheers for helping stop the end of the world.
Well, actually, it would have been more fun had there been a final betrayal or another betrayal.
Well, there's going to be one, isn't there? Because he's picked up that stupid cube, whatever it is.
Well, exactly, right? So I didn't like it, and I don't think it fits with the tenor of the film. And actually, it's part of the problem with the film, that there are these inconsistencies in a way, right? That or as you said, there's a clash of tonalities at work, really, and types of humor at work, and that's very detectable. So I didn't like that. I didn't like Tom Wilkinson. I thought,
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston. I'm a fan, but he's completely listless and unimaginative. Actually, it's a performance that's phoned in.
You just described Marvel.
Well,
listless and unimaginative.
Well, no, I don't agree. I like Marvel, but
I think what this film proves to me, when you go, the guy who did Hunt for the Wilder People is going to do a big budget Marvel movie. It's quite exciting, I suppose. And this film proves that Hollywood can homogenize anything.
Well, that's not true. I don't agree with you, because actually, it didn't homogenize this. You still see the traces.
Traces.
Well, you can tell that this film was made by that director.
Up to a point, but I think it feels like anything that got through was a mistake or they weren't noticed.
All the best bits were, right?
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Of course, any big budget film, there has to be a corporate interest. There's a lot of money riding in it, and that's what filmmakers expect. And I don't think it's particular to Marvel. I just think
I think this is the first Marvel film I can think of that I think, that was directed by a certain person. This is the first one I can think of that has some kind of identity behind the way it was made. And like you say, it only comes through in traces, really. It's product. It's not, it's you can have 2 hours of a film with some graphics, please. Certainly, sir.
Well, I don't know, because I can't remember, really. Exactly. I like Doctor Strange very, very much.
Yeah, I like that very much.
So I don't remember who directed it.
Exactly. I'll find out.
Well, no, why exactly?
Hey?
Why exactly?
Why what?
Why? Just because I can't remember many things. Not remembering Doctor Strange.
Have you even heard of Scott Derrickson?
I haven't, but you see, now it's a name I'll remember. I think it's if you repeat it often enough.
He did Hellraiser Inferno, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Day the Earth Stood Still remake, Sinister, Deliver Us from Evil. So just a load of stuff.
Well, it's
that's the point. That's what these films are. They're not. I mean, actually, getting a kind of name director, and it's not to say that Taika Waititi's a name director because he's not a huge name. But he's memorable enough that we remember his previous film. Anyway, but that's really not the project of these films. Like, if you can identify things behind them, it's like they failed. Their job is to beat it out.
I think there's two things here, So I think you're trying to damn all of Marvel, and I don't want to participate in that really. Besides, we have enough to do when talking about how this particular film fails without kind of extrapolating onto the whole Marvel universe, because actually I think there are many worse films than this.
Oh yeah,
right? So,
well, it grew on me a lot.
Sorry,
this grew on me a lot. This is what I was going to get to. It grew after those first 2/3 of the film, where I thought this is very inconsistent, not devoid of excitement, not devoid of laughter, and actually looked quite pretty. I think I like the way a lot of Marvel films look is everything is in deep focus all the time. It's like they have no time for kind of artistic sort of expression through the visuals. But in this, actually, it has shallow focus. It tries to direct your eye. There's something to the way it looks, and it's always been beautifully well produced, like they all do.
No, well, I didn't like a lot of things about it actually, but, and I wasn't particularly crazy about the way that it looked. And I think one of the things that was worse than in all the others is the slackness of some of the performances.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable to see people who are stars in their own right, really. What's his name? Wilkinson.
Hiddleston.
Sorry.
Tom Wilkinson playing Loki would be a whole other thing.
So, Tom Hiddleston, also, who played the Guardian of Asgard, who rescues all the people?
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris Elba.
Has he been in another film? Because he's exactly like his character in The Dark Tower, to the point where I thought for a minute that The Dark Tower was part of the Marvel universe.
And like in The Dark Tower, he's a bit of a blank, actually. You know, which is troublesome. I mean, you know, the only performances that I truly loved are who plays Odin?
Hopkins.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins, who, when at the very beginning of the film, when he's being impersonated by Loki, he does all these wonderful things. It's a very kind of camp and theatrical performance. So actually,
Apparently Idris Elba's been in loads of the Marvel movies. This is the first one I remember him in.
Well, it's a problem. Anyway, to get back to Hopkins, what's interesting about Hopkins is that Hopkins is giving the performance of Loki that Hiddleston used to give and can't be bothered to give now, right? So I thought that was, you know, it basically, without Hopkins and Kate Blanchett, the performances are nothing.
No, Jeff Goldblum I liked.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
He's sort of slight, and his character's not that important.
No, I love him.
And that's part of the whole section of the film where it's just treading water and wasting time. But he is, you know, kind of camp and silly, and I mean, to be fair, the one thing you think about his character is, how did you end up in charge of a whole society?
He was brilliant. He was brilliant, actually. So yes, I would add him to the two others. And I do like Chris Hemsworth very much in this, actually. It's the film that he seemed most alive in of all the Thor films. Though he has been good in other things. I love him in that
Rush.
In Rush. Yeah. So I
knew you were going to say Rush. It's a great film.
It is a great film, and he was great in it, actually. And I think this is his most relaxed. It's obviously not a complex. You know, he's not playing anything complex in it.
Very simple motivations.
But actually, his timing is very good. You know, and he does make humor out of things. You know,
he was quite good in Ghostbusters as well. As that comic stupid bloke.
Yes, he was. So that was kind of like a pleasure to see. But I must say,
Anthony Hopkins is weird to me because do you know Thomas Muller, the footballer that played for Bayern Munich? He's weird, Thomas Muller, because he's not a striker, but he scores goals. He's not a midfielder, but he makes the moves happen. He kind of, what does he do? Like, every time I watch him, I'm going, what do you do? He moves around and he does this, that, and the other, but he doesn't really do anything, but he always does something. And I kind of feel the same way about Anthony Hopkins in acting. It's like he always kind of plays himself to a degree, but he's always doing something that is interesting or captivating, even when it looks like he's kind of just picking up a paycheck and just like, I'm showing up for a day of work and going, like he did in Noah, for instance. He's still got a certain something. I can't work out what.
Great, you know. I think he's a truly great actor. But in my definition, also, he's not a star. There's always something distant about him. He never draws me in. Yeah, like I never identify, and I never quite love. You know, you just kind of admire. He makes everything feel alive. Yeah, he does. Tremendously
he's
interesting.
Twinkly.
Yeah, well, sometimes he's twinkly. But he always does something tremendously interesting, and it's always a pleasure to watch him.
He always feels quite technical, I think.
Yes,
he always feels like when he takes a pause or when he moves his eyes, it's like everything has been calculated behind it somehow.
Yes,
which is not something I love.
No,
but it's something I kind of respect. Like you can see him working.
I just think he's a tremendous actor. Yeah. But he doesn't have the star's gift of making you empathize with whatever it is that they're doing. There's always a slight remove, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
my God,
could Brad Pitt have played Hannibal Lecter?
He was one of the best things in this film. So kind of thank heaven for him, really, because the rest of it would have been quite deadly without some of these key people.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Imagine Hannibal Lecter with a winning smile. Doesn't work.
Anyway,
Cumberbatch shows up in the most perfunctory 10 minutes of just waste of time. Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange shows up purely because he's one of the Marvel guys.
Yes.
The whole point is he helps Thor locate Odin.
Yes.
And you can do that in a line of dialogue if you want.
Know.
Like it's actually, just wasted 10 minutes.
I find the whole thing incredibly tiresome. I find all these cameos incredibly tiresome because actually you get the feeling that they're contractual. They're not organic to any of the story that they're telling, right? So you have to have Hulk in, and you have to have Doctor Strange in, and Stanley has to appear, and you think, oh, just fuck off.
It's tough to tell this sometimes, because when they did Deadpool and they had the shittest ones they could get, and they made a joke out of it in Deadpool because it was all about breaking the fourth wall and everything, saying, these are the only Avengers we could afford or whatever it is. Like how much of it is sort of down to the independent film and what they can get, or how much of it is the kind of overarching Marvel thing of Marvel saying, okay, now you will appear in this film and you will appear in this film and we will orchestrate the whole thing.
No, my understanding is that they have contracts about it, so and actually they're very lengthy contracts. They're like 10-year contracts or something, and there's they specify in some of the contracts at least, how many will be like Captain America films or whatever, and how often Captain America will appear in others' films. Like that is part of the contracts, because especially if you're a big star like Chris Evans, you want to guarantee that actually you will be the center of X amount of films. So
sure, but I mean, just like the other things, like for instance, Doctor Strange showing up or whatever. Like Doctor Strange absolutely doesn't need to be in this film.
No.
So how much of that is saying kind of we can fit him in, or how much of that is saying that we've been told we have to fit him in? If you're a mental fan, I can see how it's exciting to go. Like the universe feels really holistic. Like anyone can kind of show up at any point, really.
Yes.
That is quite exciting in a way.
Well, I mean, as a comic book reader, as a teenager, I always loved those cross appearances, actually. But I think in the comic book, when they appeared, they were organic. There was always a reason why Doctor Strange came in. He didn't just come in because they had a contract with the actor, or I thought, and even the use of Thor, actually. Even the use of the Hulk.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think the Hulk was necessary. And I would have appreciated kind of, the story being told with some other antagonist that wasn't the Hulk, or, you could have developed another relationship, developed a whole other character there, right? As soon as you bring in the Hulk, you're already constricted with, what the Hulk is and can do. So that becomes another limitation on what kind of a relationship can develop.
Well, the problem with the use of the Hulk in this is that he should reflect on, or kind of illuminate, Thor's character in some way, and what the Hulk is Hulk represents anger, basically, and so you kind of you go, well, I want then there to be some kind of character development in Thor whereby the Hulk's angry nature rubs off on him or reflects on him in such, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't do that.
Well, it does, because what it means is that because Hulk is being so angry all of the time, that actually Thor can't be. He's much calmer and zen, than he's been in any of the other films. And I don't think that's a good thing to have the God of Thunder, be new agey.
But the point is, when the God of Thunder, ends up, refining his power in a way, because he thinks that that his hammer is his source of power, and his hammer is destroyed early on by Cate Blanchett's character, and then in a kind of Hela, and then in a kind of deathbed sort of vision, Odin speaks to him and says, the hammer was just to focus your power. You're not the god of hammers, you're the god of thunder. Yes. So he realizes, oh no, I've always had this power and so on. But the point is,
which is a bit of a cliche, the power in you.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. But the point is, the Hulk has no reflection on that. Like if the film is building this relationship between Thor and the Hulk, or developing it, you should be doing it for a purpose. And the fact that it really doesn't have any bearing on anything in the end makes it feel perfunctory again. As you say, it could be it doesn't have to be Hulk. It could have been anyone who he teams up with.
Yes. One of the things that I really loved about the film is that it shows Chris Hemsworth to advantage, and there's a bit of a delight to be had from watching him hold his own, against like Cate Blanchett, who was like, who went to
she's on another
school.
level.
Well, but he holds his own, and Anthony Hopkins, who got all his training on the stage and so on, and Tom Hiddleston, who's done Shakespeare, and actually I think he does hold the center of the film. He is the star of the film.
Yeah.
It's true. Kate Blanchett is always on another level. She even looks fantastic. I love the look of her.
I love the look of her. I think she looks fucking astonishing. She's like sexy Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
I just fucking hate Anne Hathaway. She's like Catwoman with antlers, but good.
Anyway,
very unctuous and oily and grimy, and despite the fact that she had to do some of that crap comedy that Marvel likes to do, what I hoped from her character was that it would all be just really serious down the line proclamations about how I'm going to take you over and stuff. It's like her character was diminished by having to do those jokes.
You know what I feel like is one of the problems with the film, is that when you were reading the comic books, you felt that you were always connected to the world, that the comic books were asking questions about the world and kind
as in the real world, the real world.
Your world, right? Kind of, you were reading them because actually it gave you a fantasy and an understanding, and it explored areas, that maybe you didn't understand or comprehend or whatever, but that actually connected to the world you live in. I think this film, if you're trying to say, like, what is this film about in relation
Is there anything to learn from it?
Well, not just, or insight about people or humanity or the planet or any fucking thing I'd be grateful for.
It's a pure kind of exercise in escapism at best.
Yeah, but it's not even it's
a 2 hour distraction.
Yeah,
you come out of it going, nothing has changed in my life.
It just feels so insubstantial and unsatisfactory. And actually, I know from some people that they're seeing Chris Hemsworth as a revelation, and they're saying this is the best Thor film yet, which actually I don't think it is, and kind of B, I just thought, well, it's not enough. Like, maybe I'm just getting tired out of all of these Marvel films.
It would be nice if you were, because the rest of us have been there for a while.
Well,
catching up.
Well, but I'm not. Like, I loved Wonder Woman. I loved Doctor Strange. So, but this one kind of is one that did make me, feel like
tired.
You better come up with new ideas.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like having a disco ball on a plane is not enough.
And exactly,
it's fine, but it's not enough.
No.
But to be fair, like this film does have those few sparks of creativity with that more nuanced, more idiosyncratic sense of humor kind of creeping in from time to time.
Yes,
like the rock character that Watiti plays is fantastic. He's lovely. He's cute and he's oddball, and I mean it helps having a Kiwi accent because it's just silly.
Yes, it's lovely. But isn't
if we have any New Zealand listeners,
isn't it sad that the one thing that we truly enjoyed, is this truly minor, character. I mean, call him secondary. It's even like...
Oh, he's tertiary.
Yes, so kind of, that was one of the great delights of the film, one of the great unexpected delights. Because actually, when Kate Blanchett appears, you know what she's going to bring, actually. So she's not a surprise.
No.
She fulfills what your expectations, but it's not coming out of left field. Whereas actually that character of The Rock does, right?
Yes.
But that's a really minor thing. So, we're really kind of looking at this film and kind of grasping for pleasures, really.
I don't think there's a bad action scene.
Well, I don't think there's a good one.
I don't think there's an exceptional one, but the action is pretty good.
I didn't think it was very good. Well, the bit where they're flying, and they jump from
plane to plane.
From plane to plane.
That's good.
I thought, what an exciting idea, and how unexceptional it seems.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought the idea was fun. It didn't give me a rush of excitement watching it. Yeah. And actually, I thought the concept, should have had the payoff of that rush, because I think it's a great idea, really, to do it that way with those characters. And the way that it's filmed, it doesn't thrill me, yeah?
No, fair enough. You say filmed. The way it's been doodled in some bloke's head.
The way that it's been imagined in a computer.
It's
rendered in a
overwhelmingly sort of...
CGI, yeah.
In that way that they all are now. This is what I was saying to you, because we saw the trailer for the new Star Wars beforehand, and I was saying they really should have stopped making these, because back when they were making them in the 70s, no one had seen this before. This was incredibly unique to and even now, looking at those old Star Wars films, I think they still look exceptional. I don't mean like exceptionally good, like you can tell that they're products of their time, but they have this unique design to them that is really striking still, and it's very uniquely Star Wars. And then even when they made the new lot in the 2000s, when they made the Phantom Menace and the other two, they still looked different to what was out at the time. And I mean, the fucking Phantom Menace looked like it was this unbelievably produced sort of period drama fantasy. It was incredible at the time. And now the new ones are coming out and they just look like everything, because everything now has great CGI if you want it.
Yes.
And they all just look the same. And the only way you can tell it's Star Wars is there's a lightsaber.
I do think that there is something about making things too CGI, creating these worlds that are so animated that actually that you feel there's nothing at stake for the live action characters,
Yeah.
So kind of you jump into another spaceship. Well, who cares? It's really just kind of some code, right? Like you don't get the thrill of a person doing some physical movement.
Yeah, like
of daring and bravery.
Well, I don't think it's so much the CG itself that like doesn't feel real, or whatever. But it's just it films now put you in a mode where the fact that anything can happen. I think this is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
It's not so much that it doesn't look real or anything like that, but the fact that anything can happen means that you don't really care anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in this film, actually, it really feels a lot of time like it's making it up on the fly.
Yeah.
You go, oh, okay, well now he has to fight him. Oh, now he can get free. Oh, now he can break through a window. It's like, I mean, really, this has nothing to do with the CG. This has to do with the plot. But the world it constructs is one in which nothing is really at stake.
Yes, and actually, if that's the case, then they really need to work on complex characterization more, like cartoons do. Yeah, like animated films do. That's where your sense of emotional involvement and comes in, right? Because the characters are complex enough, to allow for decisions to be made, for you to be, as a viewer, to be aware of what's at stake in those decisions, what price might be paid if things go wrong, right? Kind of, that kind of complex psychology, which actually in other kinds of action films you don't need, because, the physical action itself would convey that. When it's too CGI, the physical action in that particular world no longer has those things at stake. So either, you make the characters, you convey that sense of danger and daring and risk and stakes through the character, or it's not there at all. And in this film, I don't think it's there at all.
I think also something else is that these films feel, despite the fact they are so expensively produced and have these incredibly high production values, I think you could write down what happens. Like there's nothing that's really uniquely cinematic about anything that happens in them.
They feel cheap.
No, well, not cheap, but kind of. I don't even want to say lazy, because obviously there's a huge amount of work that goes into them. But I feel like reading the plot synopsis of this film would leave me with roughly the same experience as watching it did. Like apart from those few moments that we both enjoyed, those jokes, those areas of performance and things like that. Ultimately, it's not expressing itself cinematically. It's taking a plot from a page and throwing it onto a screen.
That's a bit harsh. I mean, it is rendered cinematically. It is kind of, they have found a way to kind of put it on screen. What I meant by cheap is that, in the really great films, they're always textured, and part of the reason why they're always textured is you've had somebody kind of trying to figure out how to convey layers of meaning and, to kind of evoke this feeling in the viewer. And they've been working on it for a really long time, and you feel that it's layered and structure and there's subtext and all. Yeah. With this, nothing. It's just on one level.
It's like a first draft.
Yeah. So it lacks those layers. So it feels cheap. And it's not because it looks cheap or whatever. It's just, it feels cheap. It
feels undercooked.
Yeah.
Underdone. What did you think about the 3D in this?
I'm beginning to like the 3D in recent films, actually. There were moments that I thought were very good. One, when things explode or something, and you're watching it explode, and all of a sudden, like, you see the ship coming out of almost like what was it, left field or something.
On the right-hand side of the screen is closer to you.
Yeah, and, it catches you by surprise, and it's almost like your focus changes, right? And so you take in, the world, the three-dimensional world. So, it's kind of, yeah. I think in lately it's growing on me.
I had a weird relationship with 3D in this because obviously I like 3D, as you know, and I'm always interested in it. And in this, well, at one point I had to take my glasses off because my eyes were starting to hurt.
Ah.
So, and I don't know if that was down to sitting too close to the screen, although you'd think no, because these films, I mean, we weren't that close to the screen. It was
No, we weren't.
And you
it
didn't
was
have
just
to,
that fucking 4x3D blah blah. It's just a shit way of seeing films.
So I think there was something in the 3D design or production that had a physically straining effect on me, at least for at points. And there was something that I didn't like at first that grew on me, which is 3D has become very people have started to learn how to do it basically, and so it looks good, and especially in these big budget films where it's in there from the start. 3D is just kind of dialed in, and they know what they're doing, and it looks like every other film. It's become quite sort of professional. They just know what they're doing, and in this, things. I don't know if you felt the same way. Characters, particularly in kind of long shots, felt small.
Oh.
Felt like physically small. Like, it's almost like kind of like toys. And which is to do with the distance between the eyes, essentially, the kind of the virtual eyes and the way the cameras are placed can make things feel artificially larger or smaller. And normally they're done in such a way that you don't really notice. But in this, I felt like you didn't. I don't think it was accidental. It felt like it might have been a deliberate decision, based on the fact that it's never been like that before, and these films do it all the time, which at first I didn't like, because it felt odd. But then on the other hand, it kind of, the fact that characters are so small in these long shots and you really experience this smallness of them means that the scale is emphasized, so that not only are they small, but the world in which they live is huge, and the threat around them is emphasized, which I quite liked. And then I actually started to feel like it was just kind of quite cute. There was something cute and delicate about the way these characters sit in the frame in 3D space. I liked it in the end.
Oh, good.
But I had to learn to watch it.
I liked it, and there was one shot in the film that thrilled me.
Which one was that?
It was the one where Thor and Loki are walking to the Jeff Goldblum character, and it does what seems almost like a 360-degree turn.
The camera pans down on a reflective floor, following them, and then ends up upside down.
Exactly. I thought that was brilliant.
I've done that shot before.
Oh well.
Well, I think the reason that they do that shot is because actually when that shot, I heard you gasp.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you go ooh, like that. But I think the reason that you do that shot is so that you can show that you've managed to digitally erase the cameras from the floor, because they should have shown. And that's why you do that, isn't it? You go, look, we can erase the cameras.
Well, it looked fantastic actually, and I thought it framed, and it was expressive as well, because then it framed the Jeff Goldblum character, right? Like in between the tiles on the floor, or the lines on the floor, on the mirrored floor. I thought that was great. But
what did it say anything about the world turning upside down? We're taking our place back. I don't think it did really. I did like the one where
it could have,
as Thor sort of reclaims his throne towards the end of the film, and his sister approaches him. There's her long shadow of her antlers cast across the floor. Beautiful.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, it's great little shot. That, I mean, nothing too original in it, but it just looks lovely.
Okay, great.
And creepy and threatening.
Well,
in that way.
Might be.
But I really must watch Maleficent, because I feel like
I love Maleficent.
I know, but I feel like I'm going. I bet she's the same as Angelina Jolie in that.
Well, my God, Angelina Jolie was so great in that. But that's a different film. Are there any last words you want to add about Thor Ragnarok?
I guess I really was having a absolutely terrible time for most of it. I really was, and it was despite a few moments where, if the film had been better, I would have laughed. Like, it did have its moments, it did have its jokes, and it did have its sense of humor, and you could tell that there's a certain voice behind it that's trying to break out. Rather like, I tell you what it's like, because in this film, Hulk, it turns out, has been Hulk for 2 years, and Bruce Banner's been in there going, let me out. And that is exactly what this is like. This is like Taika Waititi going, let me out, I want to make jokes.
Well, what a great way to end. I think that sums it up great.
Yeah.